You've probably seen the headlines lately. AQI crosses 1000. It sounds apocalyptic, but there's often no practical difference between an AQI or air quality index of 1200 and an AQI of, say, 400. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why the AQI number itself is often the wrong thing to track. If you want to know the real risk to your health, you have to look past the index and look at a specific measurement called the PM2.5, which is a fine and lethal pollutant. Let's take these two readings from the exact same location at the exact same time. One shows an AQI of 1216 and the other shows an AQI of 423. One is from AQI and the other is from the standard app of an iPhone. Now, how can both be right? It's because the air is the same. The actual amount of pollutants is the same, but the math or the grading system is different. Now, look at the raw data on both the apps. They're both based on a PM2.5 concentration of 685 micrograms. Now, that means a concentration of just how many particles of PM2.5 there are in one box of air, 1 cubic meter of air, and that's 685 micrograms in this case. On the AQI app and the source data on the iPhone app both show the same number. So why PM2.5 when there are many other pollutants? Well, PM2.5 is a universally tracked pollutant. These particles are so small that they bypass your body's natural filters and settle in your lungs and enter your bloodstream. From there, they can damage almost any organ or biological process. And that's what makes this so dangerous. PM2.5 is a mix of whatever is burning nearby, crop residue, any kind of fossil fuel, vehicular exhaust, or waste burning. Think of it as a toxic party animal that shows up anywhere where there's combustion. And importantly, you can't build immunity against physical particles, pollutants like this entering your blood. Just take a look at the variety of metals and elements that can make up PM2.5 depending on local conditions. Arsenic, lead, nitrates, sulfates, cobalt. If there is any human immunity that can be built up against this kind of stuff, I'd really love to hear about it. So let's try and understand using the Sensex as an analogy. To understand why the numbers vary, think of air quality like the stock market. The Nifty is an index and the Sensex is an index. If you own shares in a company, you're likely to care more about the price of that specific stock than you do about the overall index number. That stock might be listed on both indices, the Nifty and the Sensex. Currently, the Nifty is around 25,000 while the Sensex is about 85,000. Both vastly different numbers, but they're tracking the same asset, or in this case, the same pollutant. If it's an AQI, they're tracking PM2.5. If the company's value drops, both the indices reflect it. In this case, if the PM2.5 level drops, both the AQIs will reflect that. It's the same with air. Some countries have their own index to report the pollution. India's scale is designed to max out at 500. Now let's take a look at the calculation of both the Indian and the US AQI. On the Indian AQI calculator, to hit 500, the PM2.5 needs to reach a level of 380 micrograms. So now if you press enter, you'll see it shoot up to 500. And that's really unhealthy. It's 76 times the WHO's safe guidelines. Now remember, the US scale is open-ended. It does not stop at 500 or any other such number. If you plug in the same amount, 380 that we put in for PM2.5 on the Indian scale, and then press calculate, you will see the AQI is 609. So what's 500 on the Indian scale is 609 on the American scale. Of course, as pollution rises, this gap widens. That's why you see AQI 1000 on some apps. It's just a different index, so exactly the same amount of air pollution. Britain's air quality index is even tighter. So forget AQI 1000. Britain's AQI only goes from 1 to 10. On their scale, a massive PM2.5 level of 680 grams would just be 10, which means a 10 in London could be just as dangerous as 500 on the Indian AQI system or 1000 on the US one. Now let's add China to the comparison. China's AQI, like the American one, is open-ended. So an AQI of 1000 or 1200 or more is possible. India's AQI stops at 500 and UK's stops at 10. But here's the critical point. The danger starts at the bottom of these scales, not at 1000 AQI or 500 or even 10. Look at the annual SAFE guidelines for PM2.5. The WHO says it's 5 micrograms, the US says 9. Britain says it's about 20, though it's revising it downwards to about 12. China allows about 35, which is quite lenient. And what about India's standards? India's national standard is 40 micrograms, even more lenient than China's. It's the most lenient of these 5 standards. And that means that India's standard is 8 times higher than the WHO's safety guideline. And science shows that the risk of premature death begins to rise at just around this level of about 20-25 micrograms. I've done a deeper dive into these health risks in a separate podcast with an air pollution scientist, and the link is on the screen now. So the next time you see the AQI in the news, look past the index scores and stop asking what is the AQI and start asking what is the PM2.5 level. Because you don't breathe the index, you breathe the pollutant. I'm Chetan Bhattacharji, a longtime journalist, now trying to simplify the science and solutions around air pollution and climate change. I've included the links to the data and the AQI calculators in the description. Please leave a comment if you have any questions, or if you want to share something about what you find more useful, AQI, PM2.5, and how you track it in your area. Thanks for watching our Chakra, and do watch out for other explainers and podcasts with experts that I post.